In the dawn of the 20th century, humanity set the world on fire. They called it the Great War, a war to end all wars. When the guns finally fell silent in November 1918, a broken generation made a solemn promise: never again. But promises are fragile things. While the victors celebrated peace, the defeated were nursing a grudge that would grow into a monster. Beneath the silence of the 1920s, the machinery of death was being oiled once more. The First World War did not end the violence. It merely planted the seeds for the harvest, and 20 years later, the world would reap the whirlwind. This is the story of World War II. To understand how the world could descend into madness a second time, we must look at the ashes of the first. 1919, the Palace of Versailles. The Allied powers, Britain, France, and America, drafted a treaty that was intended to keep the peace. Instead, it guaranteed a future war. Germany was brought to its knees, stripped of its territory, its military decimated, its colonies taken, and most humiliating of all, they were forced to sign Article 231, accepting total moral blame for the entire catastrophe. To the French, this was justice. To the Germans, it was a death sentence. The German economy collapsed under the weight of impossible reparations. By 1923, hyperinflation had turned currency into trash. A lifetime of savings couldn't buy a loaf of bread. People burned stacks of cash just to heat their homes. In the streets of Munich and Berlin, hunger turned into rage. And in the minds of the people, a conspiracy took root. The myth of the stab in the back. The belief that the German army hadn't been defeated on the battlefield, but betrayed at home by politicians, communists, and Jews. Germany was a powder keg. It was only waiting for a match. Drifting through this chaos was a man who felt the nation's humiliation as his own. Adolf Hitler, a decorated veteran of the Great War, a failed artist, a drifter. Blinded by gas in the trenches of Belgium, he had wept when he heard of Germany's surrender. Now he found a new purpose, not in art, but in vengeance. He discovered he had a terrifying gift. He could speak. In the smoky beer halls of Munich, his voice hypnotized the desperate. He didn't speak like a politician. He screamed like a fanatic. He told them what they wanted to hear. You are not defeated. You are betrayed. You are superior. At first, the world ignored him. He was seen as a fringe lunatic. But then, the world broke. 1929, the Great Depression. The American economy crashed, dragging the world down with it. Germany, reliant on American loans, plunged back into the abyss. Unemployment skyrocketed. Starvation returned. Democracy seemed paralyzed. In the misery of the Depression, Hitler's radical ideas suddenly looked like solutions. The Nazi Party transformed from a joke into a juggernaut. They promised work. They promised bread. They promised pride. And in January 1933, the unthinkable happened. Thinking they could control him, conservative politicians handed Adolf Hitler the keys to the country. He was named Chancellor of Germany. Hitler did not seize power overnight. He dismantled democracy piece by piece, right in front of everyone's eyes. February 1933. The Reichstag, the German parliament building, goes up in flames. Hitler blames the communists. He uses the fear to suspend civil liberties. Freedom of speech? Gone. The right to protest? Gone. Opposition parties? Outlawed. By the summer of 1934, the dictatorship was absolute. The German army swore an oath of allegiance not to the Constitution, but to Hitler personally. The Third Reich had begun. But Hitler's ambitions did not end at the German border. His eyes were set on the east, on Lebensraum, living space. He believed the German people needed land to expand, and that land lay in Poland and Russia. But to take it, he needed a sword. Secretly, Germany began to rearm. In direct violation of the Treaty of Versailles, factories began churning out tanks, artillery, and fighter planes. The Luftwaffe was born. The world watched and did nothing. Britain and France were traumatized by the memories of the First World War. They had lost an entire generation of young men in the mud of the Somme and Verdun. They would do anything to avoid another conflict. This policy was called appeasement. They believed if they gave Hitler what he wanted, he would eventually be satisfied. When Hitler marched into the Rhineland, the Allies stayed silent. When he annexed Austria, they sent a protest note. When he demanded the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, they signed it over to him, hoping to buy peace. Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, returned from Munich waving a piece of paper declaring peace for our time. He was wrong. Hitler viewed appeasement not as kindness, but as weakness. August 1939. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place. The world is shocked when Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, sworn ideological enemies, sign a non-aggression pact. Hitler and Stalin, the fascist and the communist. Publicly, it was a pledge of peace. Secretly, they had carved up the map of Eastern Europe between them. Poland was now isolated, surrounded, doomed. The stage was set. The armies were massed on the border. The diplomats had failed. The silence of the last 20 years was about to be broken by the roar of the Blitzkrieg. On the morning of September 1st, 1939, the sun rose over a Europe that was technically still at peace. But at 4:45 a.m., the German battleship Schleswig-Holstein opened fire on the Polish garrison at Danzig. The Second World War had begun.